Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, the 4th of April. The year is fast spinning. Sort of slipping away from January now. We're in April, soon be Easter. Just want to say a big hello to everyone who's joining us this evening. Really good to see you this tonight live, and also say a big hello to individuals who are watching it later on. Good evening, Pepper. You're on it tonight, so yeah, good evening. Good to see you. So good to see you, those who are live and coming on in a few moments. And also, if you're watching this on catch up or later on, also another welcome to you as well. And also to invite and to welcome new people who have just started. My name is Delroy Hall. I'm a trained counsellor, trainer, and teacher, over 3 decades of experience. And in fact, April the 12th, it will be 3 years since I've started these Facebook Live. Can you believe it? 3 years, started in the first lockdown, and it's still going. Thank you, Sonia, and thank you for Miss FF were 19, hand pink waving. So thank you all very much indeed. We're looking at social fitness again. In fact, the person who wrote the comment, we've been trying to meet up for the last 3 years nearly. And I was at a writing conference at the weekend. And who should I bump into? The very same individual. So it was really good to meet up. And we had a really good chat about stuff and about social fitness and so forth. So we've been looking at social fitness. So it might be good if you're starting that you get some paper and a pen or a pencil to write something down. One of the things I was told years ago, and when I've done lots of training, I don't say it all the time, but I say to folks, party on the 12th then, something like that. The 12th is a Wednesday, I think, so I think it might be on the 18th, a Tuesday after the event, that we're gonna have to do something. Now Sofran says can't find me on Facebook, so but people are on Facebook, so I don't know whether you're on. Yes, Pepper or Sonny, are you on Dr. Delroy Hall, or are you on Delroy Wesley Hall's page? Because my sound engineer says she can't find me on Facebook. If you can just stick a message on it, that'd be really good. So yeah, so we look have a bit of a party. I guess it'll be on the 18th, week after, on the Tuesday, because the 12th is a Wednesday. Yes, sound engineer, it's on Dr. Delroy. So we're looking at social fitness. So this is just hints and tips, strategies for short term. But I've said to say to people, if you need to see a GP, see the GP, make an appointment to see a counsellor or a coach or a psychotherapist or a psychologist. If you need the help, these are just maybe pointers to help you get through a difficult patch, but certainly to work things through as best you can. It'd be good to see somebody. So if you've got a pen and paper, I mentioned the comment about faded ink is better than a good memory. So it's always good to kind of make notes. You can always go back to it. But also I'd like to share 3 questions, which is really important. Let me just get them. A guy called Jim Quick. Let me just get these down. And then I'll go back to here. Can I use them here? Okay, if you can see that, you might not be able to see it on LinkedIn, but you can certainly see it on Facebook. There's 3 questions. So these questions are really, really important. And these, if you attend any of my workshops or seminars or webinars, you'll always see a slide with these questions. Jim Quick, very interesting guy. Check him out on YouTube. Jim Quick's 3 questions, because knowledge isn't power unless you actually use it. So we change, we grow by putting the knowledge into operation. People say that knowledge is power. Jim Quick says, no, it's not. Knowledge is powered applied, or power is applied knowledge. So any workshop, any seminar, not just for this online, but anything you ever do in the future, 3 questions. How can I use this? Why must I use this? When will I use this? Because then what it does, as the lecture, the seminar, the webinar, whatever you're attending, as it's going through and the facilitator is going through the material and you're interacting, you're beginning to think about how can I put this into operation, because the time on the training, I don't want it wasted. If the work sends you on a work on training, you don't want to have it. You don't want to waste the time, and in a month's time, the training's forgotten, and so forth. So 3 questions: how can I use this? Why must I use this? When will I use this? Really, really important. So we're looking at this whole thing about social fitness, and we did have a definition. Let me just go back to a definition for us. Loads of definitions, but let me say, let's have a look. Social fitness is defined as the combined resources a person gets from his or her social world. It's about the relationships that we had, and it came about from a study, 80-year study from Harvard University, when they looked at what were the contributing factors to long, healthy life. One of the things that came up was good relationships, and in terms of good relationships and so forth. So, and they termed it social fitness. And then my friend posed the question, what happens if you've not had a good start in life? We looked at the work of Erickson, and Erik Erikson is 8 stages of life, and this whole thing around those early years that are so important for a child dependent on parents or the caregiver. And if parents are dependable, reliable, loving, caring, and nurturing, the child grows up secure. Even if they're in an environment where it's kind of hostile and they're not liked, they still feel secure. But for babies in an environment where parents or the caregivers weren't caring, nurturing, loving, dependable, attentive, they grew up insecure, and that kind of followed them through their lives. So we looked at some of the things that we can do. One of the things, part of my work is that when people come and they've had difficult parenting or very hard or poor parenting, it is not the end of their life. So we looked at this thing about reparenting. So how can we reparent ourselves? And you'll see some of the strategies on some of the videos that's on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So one of the things that you can, so what I'm going to say as well, this is not easy work. This is hard work. If you recognize, people say things like, what you've never had, you've never missed. That is not true. Example, if you've been raised in a household where people were aggressive and violent and there was lots of fighting, and you have a sleepover or few sleepovers as a friend's home, and you see there's a whole different way of family dynamics interacting with each other, and it's really caring and loving, and if something goes wrong, there's a way of dealing with it. If you see that in contrast to where you're living, you will say to yourself, I wish that I was raised in an environment like this. You will say that. So this song about what you never have, you never miss is not true. So let's have a look. Oh, last week, Pepper said, last week gave me the best thing I'd ever learned in my life. The phrase was, it's never too late to have a good childhood. Absolutely. We explored that last week. It's never too late. And really, it is never too late to start again, but also to grab a hold of your life and begin to turn in another direction. So these are some of the strategies I've used with individuals. So one of the things you can do, if you recognize you've had a really poor start in life and you've come to the place where you want to do something different, there was a quote that a guy called Richard Fields, he lives in Sheffield, and he couldn't read until he was 16 years old. And he got a job, and the company sent him for training, and he said the words of the trainer changed his life, and it was this: if it is to be, it's up to me. So I don't know much about Richard's past, but he couldn't read till he was 16, difficulty at school and so forth. But going to this training session, he said the words of the trainer that really spoke to him: if it is to be, it is up to me. So when I'm talking about recovering from a really bad past, it's hard work, but it can be done. So one of the things I say to folks, look, so say 21 comes in to me and they talk about difficult life and so forth, but yet they have a desire for a change of life. And incidentally, sometimes when I listen to some of the traumas of family life, I'll say to them, do you know much about your parents' upbringing? Yes, well, that wasn't very, very good. And then I might say, do you know much about your grandparents' upbringing? And you'll see maybe 3, 4 generations about the same type of family dynamics that have gone on. But I say to the individual, you're coming into this room, you're coming for counseling because you want to break the pattern, and you can break the pattern. So 21 it comes in, or say 25 or 30-year-old, and I'll say, look, let's just kind of fast forward the video. Fast forward the video to a birthday party 5 years in advance. Your work colleagues are there, your best friend is there, and your manager's there, and maybe somebody that coaches you in sport is there. What would you want them to be saying in the speech at your party? Significant party. So write it down. What would you want them to be saying about you? Your partner may be there. So what would your partner be saying about you? And then you write down, okay, you use your imagination, what you'd like them to say. Maybe your parents are not there. If they are there, you don't want them to speak. But your boss might be there, your best mate and a work colleague, loads of people there, but you've asked 3 people for speeches. So you write down what they may say. So you use your imagination 5 years ahead, and then what you do, you look at what's been written. You've written it, obviously you're using your imagination, and the content of what they've said, you then formulate it into a plan. And I share this with people. You formulate it into a plan, and then you use the plan. You then begin to plan out the stages. So here's year 1, year 5. You plan out the stages. So what it does is letting people know that their past might have been difficult, but you can begin to recreate a future that is really good and better than the past. So that takes some time. However, I want to talk a little bit today about creating a life handbook. I mentioned it a couple of weeks back. A very powerful tool, how we can develop a life handbook. We recognize I'm working with individuals who have been inside and now on probation, and some of them, you really see that they want a different life. And I tell them, well, you know, if you want a different life, it's hard work, but you can do it. And one of the great things, of course, once you start down a particular road of improvement and development and so forth, you meet people along the way that gives you the encouragement and support that you need. So you're not really kind of left on your own. So one of the things that I found really helpful, I did it 24 years ago. A guy called Colin Turner. I can't remember the name of the book now, but I remember the exercise. He said he speaks to lots of people, and he said they have no vision or mission for their life, none whatsoever. If you ask them what they want to do, they've got no idea. So he set them an exercise. And I've set the same exercise to individuals, but I've done it myself. I think my folder's somewhere in storage. So he said, look, if you don't know what to do, you've got no idea what to do, get some sheets of paper and over a period of time, write down 80 things you'd like to do. Now, you can perhaps get to 40 or 50, and then you're really struggling to get the 30 out to make it 80. So you write a list of 80 things. Might take you a few days. And then list 40. Oops, hang on. Yeah, once you get it down to 40, you want it to get 20. And once you get it down to 20, I want you to get it down to 10. Now, it could be you cross something out and then you write it back in. You cross something else out and you write it back in. So it's a real kind of, it's a process. It's a real tussle, but it helps you to really think. And maybe, I think mine took me about a week. So when you get down 20 to 10, and then he says that when you get down to 10, it's kind of hard. When you get down to 5, that is really difficult. But by the time you get down to 5, it really helps you to focus. And I'll be honest with you. I think 3 of them I think I remember. I can't remember what the other 2 are, but I know that exercise really helped me to shape the direction, the clarity of my life, and absolutely excellent. I can't. One is to do with being a teacher. I think the other one's been involved in leadership. I did that for 30 odd years, and also about developing people. I'm certainly still doing that. So an excellent exercise. 80 things, reduce it down to 40 things, then reduce it down to 20 things, then reduce it down to 10 things, and then reduce it to 5 things. And then you then start building, you're creating a plan that these 5 things you're really going to focus on. And I'll tell you now, those 5 things for me have really steered me over the last 24, 25 years in terms of leadership, developing people, teaching, and so forth. I think the only thing that I've not done on that successfully yet is being a property developer, if I remember rightly. So an excellent exercise, takes a bit of work, but really helps you to focus, gets you out from, even if you had difficult parenting, gets you out, or difficult parenting, gets you out from that kind of start and puts you on a new trajectory for your life. So creating a handbook, a life handbook by somebody called Celeste, and you might find it on a website called Personal Excellence. Those of you that want to kind of do, I just think it's a brilliant way of doing something. A poor start does not mean a poor future. And social fitness, as we can gather, good relationships don't happen by chance. It doesn't happen overnight. And one of the things I'll say that pain, see, one of the problems, of course, when people are in pain, we do lots of things to numb the pain, but it doesn't deal with the situation. One of the obvious things, of course, is when people say, oh, so-and-so's got a problem with drink. No, they haven't. What they're doing, they're using alcohol to mask the pain. And sometimes they use other things, people use other things to mask the pain. But this is something I heard a few days ago, and I think is absolutely spot on. Pain plus reflection equals progress. So the person is saying, we don't run away from the pain, we embrace the pain, we look at it, we reflect on what's happening in our lives. And when we reflect, there's always new ideas, new learning. You put the new learning into operation and you begin to move away from that point of disturbance, pain, difficulty, and so forth. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Really, really important. And there's ways in which we can do the reflection. Gibbs reflective cycle that you've heard me talk about before, or freestyle journaling. Or I think somebody else said that when they, for some people, a friend of mine, I know that when things are bothering him, he needs to think things through. He goes for a really long run. People go for long walks. I think the Aborigines, they talk about walkabout. So they used to go on long walks and things would be processed in their mind. And during that walkabout, they would get resolutions and answers to what they were dealing with. So for those of you who like a structure, so what I'll be saying today for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, for today and next week, this is just a guide. If you're like me, I take guides and then I change them in a way that helps me. So it's a bit like recipes as well. I might follow a recipe the first time, but the second time I do it and subsequent time, I add my own spin on it. I add a bit more of this, or I don't want this in it, I want to put this in it. So this is purely what I'm doing over the next couple of weeks. It's just a guide that might be able to help you and steer you in a direction where you can grab a hold of your life if you feel the trajectory, the pathway you're on is not what you want. You want something different. It really is down to you. And all I'm offering is a guide that can help you, but you can then change it in a way that you want to. So a life handbook. It's a guidebook to live your best life. So I'd say get yourself, there's ways in which you can do this. So in this book, it includes life purpose, values, action plans, daily tasks. So it contains, as I said before, life purpose, personal goals, daily mottos. Remember, if you've been traveling with me for a little while now, there's something about quotes. And I would say, even if you got some self-help quotes, 4 self-help quotes, and you spend 3 months on one, you read it, you unpack it, you deconstruct it, and then you put it back together in a way that that enables you to understand it. And then you ask the question, what habit, how do I need to change? What lessons do I need to learn? What training do I need to make this quote a living reality? And what you want is a new habit to be formed. That takes about, what they say, 66 days now. It's formed, and once it becomes, once it's integrated or unconscious, then you go on to the next thing. So over a year, you can imagine 4 new habits that's helping you push your life into a new direction, moving away from a difficult past that you've had. So in this life book, there's long-term goals, short-term goals, and I perhaps don't do as many goals these days, but I've been asking myself the question: this, how far can I grow? Because there's no limit, but you push through, you develop and grow. One writer, John Maxwell, said that goals can be limiting, but if you ask the question, how far can I grow? There's kind of no limit. So personal life lessons. And it's something to refer to every single day, this life book. It's really important. It's a daily reminder. Remember, what we're trying to do is to form new habits. We're trying to form brand new neural pathways so that the habits we've had of past, the patterns that we've done that haven't been helpful, we're now wanting to develop new neural pathways in the brain so we have new habits, new perspectives, new insights, and we're moving into a different direction. Okay, so the Life Handbook, incredibly powerful. It's a guide for self-leadership. Reflect on life, think about what you want, and create plans. And in this book, it's not static. You don't write a plan and it's stuck forever. You write it, you change it, you then rewrite it, and then you change it again, because life is fluid. Life is not life is not static. It's fluid. It's forever changing, and things happen to us. And one of the great things, of course, if you then begin to plan your life in a way, so there's a plan, but with flexibility, when things happen and it knocks you off kilter a bit, because you've got a mindset whereby you allow for flexibility and so forth, the plan changes, but you don't see it as a disappointment. You see it as something positive that really helps you to move forward. So the handbook is a life manual that you create. Just sit and sometimes, what we need to do is just to sit and dream, really dream about our lives. And we're not happy, but then it's about doing something about it. Remember the 3 questions from Jim Quick, as I said earlier on. We've got loads of knowledge, and gosh, I wonder how many people are listening to this and thinking, you know what, there's certain things I know I should have done it, I just didn't do it. And that happens so many times. Is it Miles Monroe who said that the richest place in the world is a cemetery? People who have died with plans, with songs, stories not them written, poetry they've not written, business they've not they didn't go for. It's just incredible that, and it's not that we can't do this, impossible. We just didn't begin the journey of actually making the effort. So the other thing about the Life Handbook, it gives clarity. When you're looking at something every day, go back to it's really, really important. It gives focus, because our life at the moment has too many distractions, and this whole thing about focus, clarity, it's really, really important. We have lots of distractions. When my daughters were growing up, I used to say to them, look, as many times you want to watch EastEnders is not going to give you it's not going to give you a degree. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch EastEnders or Coronation Street or anything like that, but what is it you're going to do that you're going to be really focused on? And these things are just kind of light entertainment, but you're not going to kind of spend all your time while it away. Stephen Covey, in his excellent book called First Things First, he talks about a young man. Oh, good evening, Jenny. Good to see you this evening. And I guess Dave is somewhere around as well. So good to see you. Stephen Covey, in his first book, I think it was Stephen Covey was the one who wrote the excellent book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. That's what it was. But his first book was called First Things First. And in this book, he talks about a guy. He meets this guy, and this guy is in this job. There's no promotion. He hates the job. It's a dead-end job. So Stephen Covey says to him, well, tell me, he says, what happens when you finish work? What happens? So he said, well, the guy said, I come in at night about 5:30. I cook a bit of tea, then I watch television from 6:30 till midnight. So Stephen Covey says 6:30 till midnight. He said, yeah. He said, that's 30 hours. That's another job. He said you could go to night school for 2 or 3 nights a week and get some qualifications that could then help you to move out of this dead-end job where you are. But yeah, every night from 6:30 to midnight, he watched the TV nearly 30 hours a week. In fact, in some cases, that might be a full-time job. Not doing nothing, just sitting, vegetating, watching the TV, but actually he could have been doing something better and more different with his life, because he was complaining about his life but not doing anything about it. Also, the Life Handbook, it serves as a guidebook for living a great life. It's also a go-to book. Let me just say this. One of the great things of what I found about journaling, once you start reflecting on things, one of the things that really caught me by surprise was this. You journal, well, I'll journal daily, and you'll learn new things, you put new things in practice. What happens in the end is something happens and it catches you off guard. You're able to handle it a lot better. This is one of the great things about also going back to what you've written. It's really important. So this life guidebook is really important. So when you get a dilemma, it's a way of reconnecting to your values and the things that are really important. Because what happens when we hit a crisis, or what happens, we panic and everything's all over, everything's at sea. But if you've got a place where you've been writing consistently, maybe for a few months, for a few years, you go back to it. It's a way of grounding you that helps you think, okay, this has happened, I didn't like it, so let me remind myself what's really important about my life. What is it I'm going to focus on? I'm not going to get distracted by what's happened, but what is it I'm really going to focus on? And that is really helpful in terms of developing social fitness and moving from a kind of difficult situation and moving forward in our lives. Because part of the guidebook, of course, is developing new relationships, because that's what we want. We want new relationships to help us move away from a very difficult past that we've had. So there's about 3 minutes left. I'm really kind of conscious. I want to respect people's time. So we looked at this life handbook. It's powerful. It's a guide for self-leadership. It enables us to reflect on life, personal values, mottos. So we write anything that's in this book. Could be that you write a quote at the top and you spend the next 3 or 4 pages unpacking it, writing what it means, and then on page 3 you rewrite it, that it really impacts on you, and then you start asking yourself the question, okay, I really understand this quote, it's spoken to me. Because the thing about it, when you first read it, it might sound really nice, but by the time you spent maybe a few hours on it and really impact it, now you might not spend a few hours on it in one go, but maybe over a period of 3 or 4 nights, you might spend 45 minutes on it. So you spend maybe 3 or 4 hours on this quote, really looked at the words and kind of free associate what it means. So by the time you get to page 3 and you spend the time on it, it's really kind of got your attention. And the other thing that you must remember is that when we're doing things and we get really excited about things and there's a kind of energy surge, positive chemicals, hormones about being released in our body. So it's not just the exercise of looking at the motto or looking at a quote, but it's the chemical reaction that goes on in our body that really enables us to feel happy or whatever it might be. And also it serves as a guide. I'm not going to spend too much time on starting something new halfway, but certainly a life handbook, really important in helping us to move forward in life. Even if your early years were really, really good, and maybe you've become stuck in a job that may be a dead end, but you really want something different, a life handbook for me is really helpful in terms of helping you to move forward. For those of you that came late, I told the early listeners that I did an exercise in 1999 by Colin Turner. I think it's called Swimming with Piranhas, I think the book was called. And he had this exercise where he asked people about the vision, the mission, what they're focused on in life. Most people don't know. And he just gave people an exercise, 80, 40, 20, 10, 5. Think of 80 things you'd like to do. And that takes some time. Believe you me, it takes some time. A list of 80, reduce it from 80 to 40. So you cross the out. Actually, from 80 to 40 is quite easy. When it's from 40 to 20, might take a bit of work. But certainly from 20 to 10, you might cross something out. Say, no, I really want to do that. You write it back in. So there's this thing that you need to keep doing it until you get the sweet spot. You say, right, I'm going to settle on that. And then from 10 to 5. And believe you me, the 5 have really kind of motivated me and lasted me for nearly 25 years. Really helped me to focus in terms of what I did with my life. So listen, I'm going to continue with this creating a life book next week. Really powerful. I can't emphasize it enough. I did something different about 20 odd years ago, but for people who want structure, maybe the life book might be something really, really important for you. If you want to know more about it, it's from a woman called Celeste. I think it's a woman called Celeste, and it's on the website www.personalexcellence, and you might find some stuff there might be really helpful for you. So listen, thank you all very much indeed. I know it's kind of I'm going to wait. If anybody wants to make a comment or ask a question, please do. Welcome those on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube as well. And if you found this helpful, please feel to share with individuals. And I'm back here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. To continue this whole thing around social fitness. How then, if we've had a bad past, or not bad past, but there's been trauma and our lives have really kind of ground to a halt, what can I do to kind of get life back on track, or not back on track, but in a new trajectory, new outcome, new pathway, new journey. That's really important. So I look forward to seeing you. Enjoy the rest of the evening and the week. Enjoy your time off at Easter, and I'll see you all next week, Tuesday 11th at 7 p.m. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Claire. And thank you for others who've been watching it. You sat all the way through it. Thank you for your time. I've gone over 30 minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time. Go well, take care, and all the best. Bye-bye.